The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening all, I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for joining us. The Ministry of Grand Bahamas signing a major contract late yesterday with a world-renowned organization to investigate possible environmental and health implications for residents living near the industrial park. The conclusive study will address what has become a pressing issue for residents of the southern communities. Shashina Roll reports.
For years, residents living near the industrial park have complained that they were getting sick. While late Monday afternoon here at the Ministry for Grand Bahama, a $500,000 contract was signed for an investigation into those complaints to determine if there are possible health and environmental implications for residents in that area. Upon coming to office, the Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Dr. Michael Darville, pledged to have an environmental assessment performed for residents in the Southern District. Monday's contract was signed with the world-renowned Pan American Health Organization as well as the World Health Organization.
What this study is to look at how industry has impacted the environment and the possible effects of individuals living in the environment in close proximity to industry. How does it impact their health? We know that over the years we've heard about the possible negative effects that industry has had on the residents of Lewis Yard and Pinners Point. What has happened is over the years there have been studies, many or the majority were inconclusive. It's come to a point now that as we started our investigations in the Pinners Point and Lewis Yard and spoke directly with individuals, we always hear about how the industry has been directly related to health issues.
Dr. Jerry Ekaman Paho and the WHO's representative here in the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands is leading the team.
We are not starting from scratch. We are starting with the data that have been collected over many, many years by the companies, by the Port Authority, by the government, so that we build on that. And then we will also look at the health data, the existing health data, so that based on those, based on the exposure, we can deduct from what kind of chemicals have been used, what have there been spills, what has been reported, etc. From that we can deduce what has to be measured.
She is commending the government in what she calls a step in the right direction and calling on residents to be a part of this process.
It's very important that the residents are not alarmed by this. The situation hasn't changed. The situation has always been there. But I really do want to congratulate the government on taking the necessary steps to look at what has really happened. So we do need full cooperation from the residents. We need to know what they perceive. We have a special branch in our project that will be looking at perception. And very often we know what we think is most dangerous is not necessarily the most dangerous.
Shashina Roll, ZNS Network News.
Developers of the $6.3 billion Blackwood Point project, the Kylan International Group has been working to supply the government with all of the necessary documents to have the project approved. But reports are now circulating that developers may be considering moving the proposed project to another country. Tonight, the Prime Minister is giving the government's position on this proposed foreign investment. Sabrina Brown has the details.
The mega development proposed for East Grand Bahama by the Kylan Group is still awaiting approval from the government. The multi-billion-dollar project was rejected by the F&M administration because officials reportedly could not prove their source of funding. Following the 2012 general election, the proposal was resubmitted to the Progressive Liberal Party government. But Prime Minister Perry Christie says he has yet to see where the money is coming from to fund such an enormous project.
I have given every opportunity to the proponents or those who propose the development. Any development has to be predicated on the ability to produce the money, and all developments could only have safe passage to a conclusion if the government of the Bahamas is satisfied at the material time when presentations are made right, that the people who are proposing the development can in fact carry it out with the full support.
The massive project will consist of 5- and 6-star facilities, including 8 hotels, a casino, and a cruise ship terminal. The Prime Minister says the magnitude of the proposed development makes the situation more complex.
This is an incredibly large one that has never been contemplated in the Bahamas. When you're talking about billions of dollars, we have the Bahama development of 3.5 billion. This one was almost twice the size of it. All right, and therefore you have to raise the question, who's putting up the money? Where are they? It says Chinese sources. Well, we know Chinese sources, and we believe that they've made tremendous efforts. We believe they've continued to persevere, and that is why I have continued to support them, because there were indications that they were headed in the right direction.
There are reports that principals of the project are considering taking their business to Antigua.
Antigua is not the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Antigua is a little bit, ought to be a little bit more concerned than the Bahamas about its economy, with respect to the dynamics of its economy. The Antiguan government has just given an indication that they're entering into agreement with Chinese-based sources for funding a major development down there. So they are going to do the same thing we do. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to produce the money.
Mr. Christie says his government is not prepared to compromise any requirements for potential investors.
The Bahamas government will not give letters to people to shop for money. If you were to ask me to provide a letter to take to some financing entity saying you're a good citizen, I don't think we need to do that. What you need to do is to produce the people who are funding it, and we will give them the assurances that if in the terms and conditions that the country establishes are met, we will meet those terms and conditions.
Prime Minister Christie says he's optimistic about developments for West End and Old Bahama Bay. Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Today, July 1st, was the date announced in the House of Assembly for business persons in East and West Grand Bahama to begin applying for duty-free concessions. Today, a West End businessman made history as he began the process to take advantage of this historic incentive. Joan Davis-Rowe reports.
This is big. This is really big in the Bahamas today.
He was determined to make history, and Tuesday morning he did. West End businessman Robert Grant taking the first historic step to what he hopes will be economic empowerment for residents in East and West Grand Bahama. He arrived at the Ministry of Grand Bahama and presented documentation required to take advantage of the highly anticipated duty-free incentives announced by the government.
It's a great day in Bahamian history. The Bahamas government has agreed and have mentioned in Parliament during the budget debate that they're going to extend the benefits under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement east and west of Grand Bahama. It's been an election promise for well over 30 years, and I'm so happy. I was so happy when I heard the Prime Minister initially mentioned during the budget debate, and then my Member of Parliament, Mr. Obi Wilscombe, during his contribution, and then our Minister for Grand Bahama, who confirmed that we will be getting the duty-free concessions east and west of Grand Bahama, all the outlying areas in Grand Bahama. That means all businesses on Grand Bahama are now playing on the it's a level playing field for each business. So I'm expecting great things in the outlying areas.
Grant noted that once in effect, these duty-free concessions will mark the dawning of a new day, a day that so many have been hoping would become a reality.
Brought my business license to confirm that I am a Bahamian businessman licensed, and all my fees are paid up to date. And so I'm here today to apply through the Ministry of Grand Bahama as instructed by the Minister for Grand Bahama, Minister Davil, of whom I'm very grateful to him and his team for bringing this into reality.
Grant commended the government for not only leveling the economic playing field, but also sparking what he is predicting will become an economic revival.
When the city of Freeport came into being, the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement came into effect, it affected all the outlying areas. All those areas went run down and dilapidated because people moved their businesses out of those areas into Freeport to enjoy the tax breaks. And so for the past 40 years of independence, and I would say actually from the bend of break speech, Bahamians must be first in their own country. When Sir Lyndon gave that speech at Borco, the fight began to try to level the economic playing field.
Joan Davis-Rowe, ZNS Network News.
Grand Bahama experiencing heavy rainfall over the past 24 hours. The rain is associated with Tropical Storm Arthur that formed early this morning off the central Florida coast. Arthur is expected to strengthen in the next 48 hours. The storm is moving at about 40 miles per hour and is producing rainfall 1 to 3 inches, mainly across the eastern Florida peninsula. Tropical Storm Arthur will continue to impact the weather in the northern Bahamas. Forecasters say numerous showers and thunderstorms will continue to drift southeastward across portions of Grand Bahama and the Abacos. Some could be moderate or heavy and could lead to some flooding. There is a risk for some cells becoming strong to severe with occasional lightning and very strong gusty winds. Some waterspouts and or tornadoes cannot be ruled out. Forecasters say weather conditions are expected to linger for a couple more days until Tropical Storm Arthur moves further up the U.S. coast. Disaster preparedness agencies have now kicked into high gear with the threat of the first storm system for this hurricane season. Tonight, Sabrina Brown tells us how one organization is preparing.
The first tropical system of the 2014 Atlantic hurricane season has formed, and the Grand Bahama Red Cross Society, a vital component in disaster management on the island, is in a state of readiness.
We do work closely with NEMA, and we are part of the Grand Bahama Disaster Committee, and so there is certain aspects of the committee that the Red Cross is a support agency, not the lead agency, but a support agency on, and that's like the mass care and feeding, the sheltering, the food distribution, and then the main thing is the volunteers. In case there is a huge disaster, we do have certain volunteers that can go out into the public wherever that need, whatever that need might be, to be a first aid responder or a cleanup person, something like that.
Development Coordinator Marsha Kennedy says they've made all of the necessary checks in their preparedness efforts.
We've inventoried, we have made contact with all our volunteers, especially the ones that are CPR first aid trained, and we had them on call for just on call for anything that might happen, that in the next couple of months. We are restocking our pantries, with we do have a certain budget for the disaster. And so that is something that, we have been trying to replenish.
But Kennedy says the Red Cross is still in need of financial assistance.
Have been spared the last couple of years. Hurricane Irene hit us a couple of years ago, and then Hurricane Sandy hit us. And so, there's always, you can never have too much funding for, because you don't know when that rainy day may hit.
The Red Cross executive is advising all families to establish a disaster plan.
The main thing is to be prepared and not wait until the last minute. Always make sure that your car will have gas in it. Make sure that you'll have, your medicines, your personal documents that you would need. Make sure you have those. Make sure you have plenty of water. Plenty of food. At least 3 days of food per person in each family. So you have to think of budgeting that, and that's one thing that a lot of people may not have is the money to set aside for the disaster kit. And so that's one thing that I do believe that we will have to start bringing awareness to people that this is going to have to be a priority.
Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us, we have more news after this.
Bringing news that matters to you. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition.
Welcome back. The Bahamas Telecommunication Company at the forefront of a life-saving initiative. A cross-sector of the Grand Bahama community recently answered the special call for help when they turned up at the Circle Mall here in Freeport. Joan Davis-Roll reports.
The response by residents of Grand Bahama to an event hosted by the local telecommunication giant recently is said to be tremendous. The Bahamas Telecommunication Company putting its marketing resources behind a major campaign, a signature initiative designed to advance healthcare and save lives. Senior Manager of Public Relations at BTC, Jerome Sawyer, says the major blood drive was in keeping with the overall mission of BTC.
This is our 4th year in Grand Bahama. We took a break for a while, but last year we came back as part of a countrywide blood drive. And a few years ago, BTC answered a call from the Princess Margaret Hospital at the time, and they were in desperate need of blood. And so we decided we'd do a blood drive just to help them out at that stage. But 8 years ago, we realized that we were onto something great, that people came out in numbers, and we realized that we had an opportunity to really help out the community in a meaningful way. And you know, blood really is the key to everything. It is the key to life.
This year, Sawyer says greater focus was given to persons known as the bedrock of society.
As part of the international effort, we are encouraging people to give blood specifically for mothers and women who are expecting, because when women go in to have children, you never know what's going to happen.
The success of such an event, according to the Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Dr. Michael Davo, was phenomenal. This as he underscored the need for improvements in the healthcare sector.
This year, it's just amazing the amount of people that's turned out. So I'm very pleased with what I see here. But one of the things that I was told that is so critical for the Rand Memorial Hospital is a mobile blood unit. And every year we talk about it, but this year I'm planning to sit with them to try and find a way how we can try to get this piece of equipment in Grand Bahama so they could move from place to place. A couple of months ago, I've had a constituent who needed blood, and it is drives like this that allows people who are ill and need transfusions or even blood to have access to the blood itself. So I support this venture 100%, and I'd like to commend BTC for their participation.
Owner of the Circle Mall, businessman Hannes Babak, says this partnership is significant for more reasons than one.
We as a Circle Mall are very happy that we can participate in the event and that we partner up like we did last year with Patelco and the Rand Memorial Hospital, as it is very important that we get anybody who wants and is able to donate blood in here today, so we have reserves of blood donations in case of emergency car accidents that unfortunately happen.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
A number of corporate entities coming together with Celebrate Freeport organization and the Assemblies of God RV500 to help aid 1,000 residents on Grand Bahama. Coordinator Pastor Eddie Victor says this is just the first phase of the shoe distribution program dubbed the Samaritan Feet Project. Urban Renewal 2.0 has also come on board for the initiative, and Deputy Director Michelle Rackley says they are always on board when it comes to helping those less fortunate.
We will be distributing approximately 1,000 pairs of children tennis shoes on Saturday, July 5th, 2014 at 10 a.m. at the Foster B. Pestina Center. The distribution will be done on a first-come, first-served basis. Each child that will be receiving shoes on that day will have their feet washed and will be ministered to by leaders from our community.
We are always honored to be able to give something back to our community or to be a part of anyone who sees the need to make a difference in someone's lives. And we want to personally thank Secor and Pastor Eddie Victor, who saw the need to include Urban Renewal in this distribution, because as you know, we are out there in the community, we see the needs every day, we know the needs, and again I say thank you so much for involving us, and I'm sure these shoes would go to persons who need them.
Secor Island Lang is the major sponsor for the shoe distribution project. Manager Nicola Raming says they're grateful to the community for helping to make this initiative possible. She's also encouraging other corporate sponsors to do their part in helping residents throughout Grand Bahama.
We would like to thank Pastor Eddie Victor along with the Urban Renewal Program for bringing us on board with this wonderful, wonderful gesture. It's much needed and it's timely. We would like to encourage the corporate entities along with individuals at large to come on board, get involved with giving back to the community and help those that are in need.
Stay with us. Ricardo Lightburn is up next with sports.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sports with Ricardo Lightburn. Need a Boston Whaler to get home tonight. Somebody come pick us up, please. Bahamas Powerlifting Championships held on the weekend, folks. The Northern Bahamas Powerlifting Association hosted the event. The Bahamas Powerlifting Championship was held at the Circle Mall on the weekend with 17 competitors. The bench press is one of the key events of the championship and strength to focus. The judging was stiff from the squats, deadlift, and bench. The division from lightweight to super heavyweight, and the idea is to get a good lift. Northern Bahamas Powerlifting Association hosted the event, and President Miko Nesbitt was elated.
We have 3 events, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. We're about halfway through. We're seeing some impressive numbers, some squats up to 750 by Leslie White. And it's been a good show, a lot of improvement since the last competition about a month ago. And we're looking to see some even bigger numbers in the other events.
This was not an easy competition, and many of the competitors experienced the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. The super heavyweight division, the 120 kilos, Leslie White, total 1,950 pounds. Romeo Archer won the heavyweight division. The lightweight champion is D'Amico Nesbitt, and Zendel Curry won the middleweight division. The light champion, that is Lance Poiter, as well as Calvin Russell, the junior division. Bob Brown won the masters, and Sandira Smith, the female title. Well, folks, the 8th annual Grand Bahama Cycling Championship was held on the weekend, and Royal Colebrook Jr. won the 73-mile race in 3 hours and 27 minutes. Anthony Biggie Colebrook was second. He had a pretty good time as well. Justin Jet Minnis finishing right there as well. Third and fourth goes to Tank Albury and Angelo Superman Astura. Fifth with Chris Robocop Curry finishing there as well. As far as the women in the 61-mile race, Shannon McBriar was first and get the time, 3 hours and 12 minutes, and Vicky Stafford was second. And also the category 2, Kenton Roker posted a very good time in 3 hours and 7 minutes for 61 miles. And Ed McMinn's also right there as well in winning the women's division. As far as category 3, Terrence Mwinder had a 37-mile ride in 2 hours and 55 minutes. And also Michelle Hansen had a good one as well, an hour and 52 minutes. Not bad for the riders. They all had a pretty good time as well. Well, the competition in the Bahamas Baseball Federation Nationals recently held here in Grand Bahama was kind of stellar. Now, all the divisions attracted huge fan supports for a good reason, you see. The ball players showed the pure nature of the game of baseball, and first Vice President of the Bahamas Baseball Federation, Stephen Adley, thanked Amera and the Grand Bahama Power Company for believing in the youth and Little League Baseball executives here on Grand Bahama.
The whole idea that a company in Canada would come here and with no real reason to come and help our Little League, but just they took the opportunity to help our community. And I think especially the kids here from the Grand Bahama League will really benefit from this. And all the kids who come here and visit us every year, and maybe a few more years coming up. But I think that this is going to benefit the whole Bahamas. You know, we have some other tournaments coming up later this summer. The Caribbean Little League Championship, and we also have a big group of coming in from Florida in August. So this thing is already starting to give us benefits, because if it wasn't for the facility, they wouldn't come.
And don't forget that it's going to be, folks, the 19th of this month for the Caribbean Little League Championship. The winner that comes from here goes to Williamsport, Pennsylvania for the Little League World Series. That's a look at your sports tonight.